Hey, Gaybros Blake.
Hey, Gaybros Jose.
Where are we today?
I'm still in California. You're on the wrong coast this week.
The Broncos. Who is to say what is right and wrong? Especially when it comes to coasts.
People in California.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that God, if it exists, it entitled you guys with the rightfulness. Oh, gotcha. In Carmel. Yeah, Yep. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if God exists, it's not in Carmel. Let's be honest. There are better places to be than in Carmel.
Fair enough.
Okay, but you're still in California. You're still in San Francisco.
I went quiet because I was running through all the places. Yeah, there are definitely better places than Carmel, like El Salvador.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, there are like many. I was going to say like probably not the Tenderloin. You know.
Right.
I'm going to be like mentioning something. Now that I think about God and the Tenderloin, it reminds me like once that my parents came to visit. Did I tell you this? And my mother was crossing the Tenderloin, and I think that she got possessed by the spirit of Teresa of Calcutta. And she was saying that it's like, oh, hey, I love this. I feel like these are my people. I was like, Mom, these are not your people. It's like, I've never seen you with a syringe like just hanging from your arm. So these are not your people.
She felt inspired.
Yeah, like I found my call. My call is helping these poor people that I consider my brothers and sisters.
Well, she can come help out in front of my home if she wants.
I'm just wearing one of the vests. I just pushing people away. Yeah, no, I think that after a couple of more trips, I see actually change her mind about like, no, this is too rough. This is a concept that we don't have in Spain.
I'm definitely more of a Marina gal now that I noticed.
I think this is a bit more of Noe Valley, to be honest, but yeah. Yeah, talking. I don't know exactly how to connect this. Like, what is the segue? I don't want to say it's like talking about mistake, talking about like things that it took us a while to realize how good or bad they were, as my mother with the Tenderloin. What did we watch today?
This was your pick after weeks of not understanding whose pick it actually was.
This was your pick. No, this was your pick, dude. This was your pick.
I picked, and don't ask me why, Jose, because I don't remember why. The little-known 1972 cult classic, The Godfather, by a guy named Coppola.
Coppola. I'm actually talking. Yeah, I started talking about San Francisco. Doesn't he own a building in San Francisco?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, his vineyards are here, right? They're up in Napa.
Well, yeah, but I think that he owns like that green one in Columbus Avenue.
Oh, really?
What is it called? The Sutrop? Yeah. Like the one that is a bit like flat iron, like, yeah. Sutrop?
I don't know. That's right by the oldest bar in the city. I can never remember what it's called, but it's been for like 50 years.
Yeah, Café Sutrop. I'm pretty sure that, Francis Ford Coppola's Cafe.
Wow. Well, now I want to go there.
But yeah, I don't know. I have never been inside, but outside, that I always found is like, this is a bit tacky, that they are posters of his movies. Like permanently.
What, he's supposed to put posters of someone else's movies up? Like,
no, dude.
What if you walk in and there's like Transformers 1, Transformers 2?
Okay, that's fair. If you're going to be like putting posters of any director, probably you could go with your own ones. But seeing posters of movies from 50 years ago is a bit strange. You know, I always like the first time that I passed by, I was like, why? And then it's when someone told me that, oh, Francis Ford Coppola actually owns this place.
It's not just as someone who's a big fan of New York, I Love You, Part 7.
But I mean, it's almost like hey, people already know you. People already know these movies. It's not that you are like just making marketing for it. It's like, hey, maybe you have never heard about Apocalypse Now, so just letting you know that it exists.
Poster.
It's just a poster that maybe you have never seen. And maybe, like all of the menu, it has like the plates, they're like just inspired by the names of the, like something on her movies, like Corleone or the smell of napalm in the morning.
Alfredo. See what I did there?
Yeah, I can see it. Well, I can hear it. But yes, this was like
the what is Annie Hall doing in The Godfather penne pasta?
Just stop. Thank you. And you said that you don't remember why you picked this. I assume that it was like the two Mai Tais after talking about All Is Quiet in the Western Front.
Yeah, it was clearly a rejection of All Quiet on the Western Front, but I can't remember what I was rejecting. It doesn't matter. There's always it's always a good decision to watch The Godfather. Or
yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah. What is going? Crap, I was going to be like following up with something, but yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And as this was your pick, I think that I have to summarize it and may spoil some stuff.
It was 3 hours long, so please be detailed.
Yeah, you never know. Like, what is the detail that is going to be like make or break this movie? It's so detailed, so much stuff happens. There are like sometimes that you see a 3 hours movie, the 3 hours, and you feel like nothing happened like during those 3 hours. This is the opposite. It's 3 hours and a lot of stuff happens.
Minus about 45 minutes of like wedding footage.
But it's at the beginning.
That's the first one. There's a second one.
That part, no, that one is not that long. Now that part is like well, let me just summarize first, and then I will get to that part, because that part it was like, oh, I have forgotten that this happens. Oh, and I have forgotten that this doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so basically this follows the family, the Corleone family, that is a Sicilian mob family that is installed in New York. The main character is Vito Corleone. Well, the patriarch of the family is Vito Corleone, that is the Godfather. And if you are his, I don't know, what is the counterpart of being the godfather of someone?
The godmother.
No. The godchild, yeah. If you are like the godchild, or you are like the family of that godchild, you are supposed to be partially protected by him, and you can ask them favors, and they can just, ask you for a favor in return eventually. The movie opens with the wedding of the daughter, Connie Corleone, that is marrying a guy called Carl, that we will know more about like way later into the movie, like 2 hours into the movie. And we see like how some people, there is a parade of people that they go to talk with the Don, with Vito Corleone, for asking favors. And we see like a bit more of the establishment. This is a bit more of a context setting. And we also see Michael played by, Vito Corleone is Marlon Brando, and Michael Corleone, that is one of the sons, is played by Al Pacino. And he's like the civilian. He's like, hey, I know what my family does. I know my family. I know better. It's like, I'm just a decorated war hero. I assume that it could be, what year is this? It's after World War II, no? 48?
Yeah, because they drink whiskey at some point and they're like, oh, this is pre-war whiskey, so it must be post-war if there was a pre-war.
Yeah, they said the year, but only once, and then it was like calculated. I think that is 47. It's like, I just watched another movie yesterday and it was like 48, and I think that is like from 47, and years pass, but you never see like any kind of title say like 1 year later. They only talk like from time to time about like, hey, I've been here for a year, or I came back a year ago. And it's like, okay, so now we are on 51 probably. So the story spans like 4 years. I may actually just go like a bit to the core of it. The Corleone family gets into some discussions with another family that they want to use all their political influence for just having like drugs, like hardcore drugs, like being distributed in New York. And they are above that. They are a mafia family with principles. So they actually disconnect from it.
I have to say, I was so supportive of the Corleones, like being no drugs, until I heard the return on investment. $3,000 was going to return 50 grand. I was like, I'll invest in that.
He's like, okay, you may have principles, but it's like when you are going to have like this ROI, dude, I can make numbers. So and besides that, is that everyone tells them about like, hey, if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And I think that's like what
you're doing a great job summarizing.
Yeah, no worries. And I think that was that the part 3 is about. I remember, but in any case, their specialty. Sorry,
the drug business.
I think so. I think there was a bit more about like it jumps to the 90s or something. It does like a crazy jump, because I think that part 2 was in the 60s.
I don't remember, so.
Yeah, no worries. We haven't watched yet.
Questions.
Well, in any case, they and we also see like a Frank Sinatra-like, that he succeeded because his connections with the mafia, and we see how he's not like succeeding in Hollywood, and they make an offer to the director for casting him in a role that he couldn't refuse, but he does, and then we see like one of the most iconic scenes there that is with that it involves a horse. Let's just leave it at that. But in any case, like just going to the main conflict that is like this.
Just as good 60 years later.
Oh yeah, but yeah, we will go into detail into that one. Then after like having this like not really misunderstanding, but non-agreement with the other family decides to attack back. Is that they decide to actually like just try to destroy the Corleone family, and they attempt to murder Vito Corleone. He goes into the hospital, and then Michael starts taking a bit more active role in the family. He starts like trying to be a mediator. He saves his father from being shot by the police. Probably, we don't know about that, but it looks like the other family has like a bit of a reach into the corrupt policemen, and they were going to be like trying to attempt the murder of Vito Corleone while he's in the hospital. So the rest of the movie is a bit more of Michael stepping more and more as the leader of the family, and almost like just telling us that he cannot avoid his destiny. He is never going to be like a regular civilian, albeit Vito and the rest of the family were trying to push him away from all of this activity.
I don't disagree with you, but I think probably it's a more succinct way, or it's important to add that he takes revenge for his father, goes into hiding.
Yep. Yeah, goes into hiding in Sicily for 2 years. He gets married while he's in Sicily. Spoiler alert, his wife dies while he's in Sicily. He comes back, he marries his girlfriend before running. Annie Hall? Oh, was it?
That's Diane Keaton, right?
Oh my God, yeah. I was saying that it looks like really familiar. Now I understand your Annie Hall joke.
Okay, thank you. It was a good joke.
Guys, there was still a bit of a, two-step thing. But yeah, he comes back. He starts stepping up as the leader of the family. Then Vito remains as a consigliere, while they send the previous consigliere to Vegas. That is an adopted son that they have. The rest of the movie is more vengeance. Is that they realize that they are being attacked not only by that family that they antagonized when they didn't want to deal that drug deal with them, and they end up basically murdering the head of all of the families, of the mafia families in New York.
Definitely motivated by the murder of Vito, but I would
attempted.
Primarily motivated murder. Yeah, the attempted murder of Vito, but the successful murder of Sonny.
Yeah.
Who was the next in line after Vito, but then Sonny was killed, so Michael took over.
Yeah. Well, and besides that, is like I don't think that he would ever have been the Don. Is that everyone already like agree and look at the camera while he says like, well, Sonny has a temper that he gets the best of him, and at the end he gets murdered because of that temper.
Yeah, that's fair. But technically he was still in line. whether or not he would have been successful.
I think that actually Fredo was even older than the two of them, but Fredo is completely useless. Yep. Yeah, it's funny because it's like every single time
like Don Trump Jr.
Every single time that he was on the screen, I was watching this with my boyfriend. Every single time that Fredo was on the screen, I was like, "Oh, poor Fredo."
Poor Fredo.
Do you remember in the part 2?
No, I remember nothing about part 2 or 3 besides Sophia.
Dude. I think that I told you.
That wasn't a joke. That's all I remember.
Well, I mean, it's hard for her to forget. But I think that I told you that a good friend of mine, that he used to like talk with cinema a lot while I was back in Spain, that when I used to talk about The Godfather, and for me, this was like a masterpiece, part 1 and 2. This is a movie that I watch sometimes, you know. I even had like the first collector's edition that they did on DVD, you know, with a lot of extra content. And when he used to ask me, it's like, so what did you think of part 3? It's like, I think that Sofia Ford Coppola completely destroyed that movie single-handedly. And he used to tell me, he's like, look, you guys complain so much about Sofia Ford Coppola acting that now we have to put up with her directing.
Thank you. Thank you to you and your friends. That now we have somewhere.
Yeah, and Maria Antoinette.
Hey, I like that movie. I've seen that movie more times than I care to admit.
But yeah, I think that that's pretty much it. Is like the movie ends with Diane Keaton just realizing at that point that, hey, actually Michael has become the Don of the family. Everything that he said that he was different, that's not true. It's that he's exactly the same.
And probably worse, because Vito fought for peace and compromised, and Michael was mass murderer.
Yeah. I have to say that Al Pacino as an actor on this one, he's a very one-tone person.
He was one tone, but I would argue that performance was better than anything he's done in the last, let's say at least 23 years.
Let me just check. I think that he may have something. Well, in Scarface, he
Why
had
don't
more
you just
emotion.
read out a few of the titles you're seeing there on your screen? Throw a few out there.
I was going to say in Scarface he had a bit more of emotion, but I was going to say, like, you know where he had the most emotion? In The Irishman, when they had to apply CGI over the face of all of the actors.
I didn't watch it, thanks to my good taste and your warning.
That movie was something.
So when I sat down to watch this movie, my husband was in the room with me, and he's like, "What film is this?" And I said, "It's The Godfather." He's like, "Oh, great film." So we watched like 10 minutes. He's like, "I don't think I've ever seen this film. When does he do cocaine and start shooting with a machine gun?"
So he was thinking about Scarface.
He sure was.
Okay, they're different movies. They are fairly different movies. I only watched Scarface 1, and I think that I was not too excited about it.
I can imagine how it made a splash when it came out, but it's not shocking by today's standards or particularly interesting. Anyway, we're not reviewing Scarface or The Godfather Part 3.
And we will never do.
I don't know what there is really to say about The Godfather. It's a great film. It's just great. Whether it's perfect or a masterpiece, I think that's subjective, even though there seems to be a general consensus. But I forget. Every time it's been a few years since I've seen it, and then I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like poetry on screen and entertaining.
How many times did you watch it?
Like in general? Just overall?
Well, yeah, how many times did you watch The Godfather Part 1?
This is probably the third time.
Okay. I may have watched it like 5 times, probably. I don't usually remember all of the details. I remember like the leitmotif that is a Michael Vito surviving this, then like just living for a while and ultimately dying, and Michael like just falling into what is the, like expected outcome just coming from the family. But albeit I agree that this is a fantastic movie, and for me it's like the example of how to take 3 hours and make it feel significantly shorter. I didn't enjoy it that much this time as I did like other times. I'm not saying that this is bad, that it's a bad movie or anything like that, but it's like the part when he was in Sicily, I just felt if you are not taking this anywhere, if you are marrying this guy with this woman, the woman dies, and the only outcome is like he keeps like voiding emptying his soul because of that, until he ends up being like a don of the family and just like understanding violence as a path forward. And if it's 3 hours, I don't know, there may be like some editing that it could have been done.
So I will say that didn't bother me while I was watching it this time or the other times. But now that you mention it, I can see how I also like when that first scene where he talks to somebody and he's like, my name is Michael Corleone and I'm in hiding and people would pay a lot for this, so you can either turn me in or you can have a son-in-law. I was like, okay, we're gonna he's gonna build a life here in Sicily. Like we're gonna see what he does in a small rural setting. Nope.
No, it was almost like when he arrived there in Sicily, he was like already a mob. It's like when a mob, like part of the mafia, It was more after he shot those 2 people, it was like a complete change. And you could actually argue that it's like, hey, anyone that shoots 2 people, that they kill someone, that takes someone's life, is going to be irredeemable change. But he's a war hero.
Strong way to admit.
Yeah, but he's a war hero. So it makes it a bit
criminals.
No. It's what I'm saying is like killing 2 people. I don't think that is exactly what is going to be like driving him over the line when he comes like 30 minutes before that, or an hour before that. He was saying, I could never turn. I'm not my family. I don't approve of what my family does.
But isn't that kind of the point of the story, is that family ties might be stronger than you suspect, and how much of... I mean, it's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, that's the point. But it's like, I wish that the character was more nuanced. That is like, he was not giving like this kind of very absolutist perspective at the beginning of the movie, and then suddenly it's like, well, I guess that I have to be evil, and now I'm going to basically kidnap this woman and marry her because I'm threatening her father.
But would the film have the same emotional punch that it does if it was like more like this frog slowly boiling in water versus, oh, hey, everything was turned upside down when they tried to kill his dad and he's ready to fucking commit?
I think so. I think it will have like more impact, because just think like every single scene when they are like presenting and looking at the camera and saying that is like, no, we cannot ask Michael to kill these 2 people. He's a civilian. And he looks at the camera back and he's like, nah, I'm good. I could do it.
In my mind, that would make this film The Departed. No, thank you.
No,
I mean, your complaints don't bother me, but I can see where they come from for sure.
I think this is like one of those things that I told you that is, hey, I don't like rewatching over and over the same movie, because it can remove this added value that I have from time to time when I watch a movie that I used to love, or a movie that I was not too big of a fan of, like years later, and just having a different reaction. Not because the movie changed, it's because I changed. It's because sensibilities have changed, when it comes to cinema. And in this case, I see all of the virtues, but I couldn't call this a masterpiece by nowadays standards.
Oh. goddamn tongue. Go back to your country.
Sure.
Like you said, we change, and I remember the first time I saw The Godfather is in my 20s, and I didn't want to watch it, and I watched it, and I was like, holy God, this is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
And I remember in a phase where I could watch 3 hours of like a flower blooming, like that's the extent of my patience. And I could see, oh wow, that was really interesting. Like Celine Dion goes boating. I guarantee you, I would have had the patience for that in my 20s. Like I would have been like, oh my gosh, not that I was overly praising. I just had a different level of patience. So when I watched The Godfather this time, the wedding scenes made me want to kill myself. I don't think that's because they're not valuable or worth their time. It's because now I'm at a moment in my life where I value like, I don't know, high density storytelling. That's not good or bad. It's just what I'm in the mood for. And so, yes, for the first time, I had a complaint watching The Godfather. So I hear where you're coming from. Okay.
But I mean, to be fair, I like the first wedding. I'm okay with it, you know? And I guess that there is a bit of a, hey, if we spend so much time on the first wedding, we also have to make the parallels with the second wedding.
Yeah, but step away from the specific example. What I'm saying is I consumed this film differently than I have in the past. Like, I get it when you're saying, it wasn't mind-blowing. Yeah, to me, it wasn't mind-blowing this time. I still think it's a killer fucking movie.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, it's not for going over the questions. I don't disagree with just saying it's like, this is like, it has to be in any top 100 movies. It has to. But what I was thinking while watching this, I was thinking that I enjoy more the Goodfellas when we watch it.
It's difficult for me to compare because they're very different in terms of the. I was gonna say genre. Obviously, the same genre, but I feel like Vegas Mafia is a specific breed of mafia, so it's very different.
The Goodfellas is not Casino.
I'm thinking of Casino.
I'm pretty much, yeah. But I think that isn't it also New York? It's from 50s.
Isn't it Chicago? I don't know. Don't listen to me on The Godfather. I didn't like The Godfather. I like this movie better.
So, wait, you said like I didn't like The Godfather too much.
No, sorry. I like The Godfather more than Goodfellas.
Okay, Goodfellas, New York City too. Yeah. I like both. I always consider that The Godfather is a superior movie to Goodfellas, but I also love the rhythm of Goodfellas. This one there are like points that a lot of stuff happens and you have to be connecting all of the names and just what is the relationship, and it's done like pretty well. I mean, it's like if you pay a tiny bit of attention, it pays off. It's like it looks like they review like many times the script for just making sure that, hey, we're going to be like telling a story with a lot of people, but you're going to know that Widow has 4 sons, sort of like 4 kids. It's like a woman and 3 kids, and they adopted another one, blah, blah. You discover a lot of that through dialogue. I mean, it's true that sometimes it's a bit of exposition, like looking at the camera when they describe that. It's like, well, Tom was an orphan kid that we found on the street, and my father took in, and now he's a consigliere, and blah, blah, blah. But it's well made.
I mean, adaptation is genuinely an art, right? I'm guessing, I haven't read the book, but I'm guessing how well this is adapted is probably pretty remarkable, which is a facet of the film I can't speak to, but this is something that brings it merit.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming it stays true to the book in the way you were just discussing, where the storylines are thought out.
Yeah,
you fleshed out characters, storylines, blah blah blah.
Yeah, actually, Mario Puzo, along Francis Ford Coppola, were the ones that they created the script.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So he was the author of the book.
We had thousands of books in my house growing up, and only a very few of them was I not allowed to read, and they were on one shelf. Like Godfather was there next to Stephen King and some basically porn for women.
Okay.
Anyway, I always wanted to read it. I would have read it, but I wasn't allowed.
Yeah. I was going to say. I don't think that I have like anything else to say. Is that this is a really good movie. I don't think that it's a perfect movie. I think, as I was telling you earlier, before we started recording, we're talking about another movie that I watched this week, and we're just talking about like how sensibilities with time require different things. That for the other movie was like, hey, for right now, I need those special effects. In this case, I feel like personally, what would have like elevated this even more is not only about like telling me the story, but just making that nuance, like that frog boiling in the water. I think that for me is what it would have like added like 1 month later.
Yeah, I can see this. This film is almost operatic in in terms of how epic it is. Like, I could see this easily being Norma or some other tragedy on an opera stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, our subtleties have moved more towards nuance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't have much to say about this film. I mean, what can be said about The Godfather that hasn't been said? It's a great film. Anybody can appreciate this.
Yeah, probably. Should we go over the questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you watch it again?
Yes.
Would you watch it tomorrow? Okay.
Maybe not tomorrow, but like in a month, yeah. Like, okay. My husband didn't finish watching it with me. I would finish watching it again with him.
No, that's fair. I definitely would watch it again. Not tomorrow, but in 6 months, probably. A year. Let's just go with a year.
That's fair. 3 hours.
Yeah. Would you recommend it?
Yes, without any reservations.
I would recommend it, but I also think that it's a highly violent movie.
It is highly violent, and it's shockingly effective in how startling it is. Just because this is a 50-year-old movie, right? You would think it would be like, not great effects, but it's, oh my gosh, this is horrifying.
Well, I mean, it's not about effects. It's that, like the horse head is a real head.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like a product from a different time in that aspect. It's like we see how someone gets a stab in the hand, and some other like very, I wouldn't say like the violence is gratuitous. It's a bit more for just building the feeling of menace, the feeling of unsettledness about like there are high stakes here.
I would argue that there's an aspect of realism to the violence that makes it more disturbing than like Quentin Tarantino, which is very stylized. I know you can't compare the two, but like when you see someone shot in the head or in the throat, they grab their throat, and then you watch like, it's just shocking violence, which is always impressive to me because I'm not often shocked by violence. So when I am, I'm like, they've done something here.
Except with Vito, that he has already received like 10 shots and he survives.
I couldn't remember if he lived or died, and I was like, oh no, that dude's dead.
He said, nope, he's not.
He lived.
I mean, I knew that he survived, and the thing is that scene was so impactful. It has like this aerial shot, and then you see like the oranges in the ground. It's super iconic. It's almost as iconic as the horse in the bed.
Yeah.
But I because of that violence, for example, I wouldn't recommend it to my parents. I will still recommend it to many people. If someone asks me, it's like, I've never watched, I want to get into mob movies. Should I watch The Irishman? I would be like, fuck no, watch The Godfather.
I want you to we've never done this, but I want you to take away as homework. I want you to just ask your parents. Don't recommend the film, just ask them, because I'm guessing they've seen it and have an opinion about it. It's like Gaspar Noé. How like apparently everyone else is totally cool with him and we're shocked. I'm sure your parents are like, yeah, I saw The Godfather. I saw him in the 70s. It was amazing.
I think that no, I'm pretty sure that most people are shocked by Gaspar Noé. I just think that the people that they watch it and they are not shocked is that they are trying to play cool.
That makes me feel better. So we're just more honest.
So
We're
I think that. But yeah, going back to the Godfather, could you remember it?
No, I didn't remember a single fucking thing about this movie besides the horse head, the scene where Sonny gets shot, and I think the scene where Vito has a heart attack. That's it. That's all I remembered.
Yeah, how he falls in the middle of the tomato crops, and the kid is playing around. There is at that point what I was thinking is that I think that's insecticide, what the kid is shooting. It's no, I don't think that it's supposed to work like this. But it was the 40s and the 50s, so who cares? I remember quite a bit about the movie. I mean, I watched it many times, and I remember sometimes back in the day when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, now is the time that this happens. And I remember always the at the end is a bit more about just killing all of the heads of the family.
So you did remember that ending?
Yeah, I remember the ending. I remember it was a huge payoff about hey, you remember these 5 characters? Oh, they also killed the head of a casino. But it's you could have removed all of that part about the casino and it could be fine. The thing is in part 2 is relevant. And I think that wedding in Sicily in part 2 was relevant.
I'm not going to pretend I remember. But that would make more sense if the books were conceived as a trilogy that they have to interconnect them all.
I'm not sure that they ever envisioned Sofia for Coppola for part 3 or anything involving her.
For that role.
Yeah, she's supposed to be one of the daughters of Michael Corleone, no?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything artistic about The Godfather Part 1?
Yeah, it's some of the best storytelling I can think of. I mean, I make this joke every week. It really is no La Ventura, but it gets close.
Okay. Oh, that's fair. For me, it's the visual language. It's something that I was thinking that when we watched Dracula by Bram Stoker, by Francis Ford Coppola, and it was not too good. And I think that we did no, and we didn't ever go back to watch any other Coppola movie. And we're talking about how well respected he was during the 70s, no? That he did Apocalypse Now, The Godfather 1 and 2, and I was thinking there is
Al Pacino.
The what?
Kind of like Al Pacino, very well respected in the 70s, and then just made shit.
Let's just leave Al Pacino on the side. What I was going to say is that I think that there is something disruptive about the style, a bit more of a underlying anger based on realism for Coppola during that time. The same thing with Scorsese and Taxi Driver and other movies. What was it, Raging Bull? So I just feel is that they had this style that it was very iconic. And then when you see Dracula, that is a very this could have been from the 50s, from Hollywood golden age. Is what is the point of this? And I feel that if I think about the artistic aspect, I think that this movie captures pretty well that 70s. Hey, we are going to be bold about what we do, but we're going to try to ground it in reality for just more shock to it.
So are you saying that as directors, they're timely, but they lucked into this specific kind of gritty, realistic
but genre? But I think that Scorsese, for example, can keep a bit of that, and still do other stuff like Shutter Island or The Aviator, that is a bit more of golden age Hollywood, let's just say, and it's better crafted. I think that Coppola here, where he excel, it was more with that grittiness based on reality, and then he lost it, and then the craft was not that good. But it's weird thinking that this is the same director as Dracula.
It's interesting because I would argue there's a lot of directors like that, right? Our favorites to talk about, Christopher Nolan, Darren
Oh, yeah,
Aronofsky,
that's that. Yeah.
before they tried to do these like very polished like Hollywood, this is an epic,
Yeah.
or this is a traditional story.
Yeah. Even Villeneuve.
Yeah.
The more he polishes, the least interesting I feel he is.
So do you think Francis Ford Coppola is genuinely talented, or he was just lucky?
I mean, you cannot be lucky when you have, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather 1 and 2. I don't know. I mean, this is not like, hey, I actually woke up and I had this idea for doing this. It's more than that.
Okay, let me just read you what he's directed in the last 23 years. Let's call it 25 years. Distant Vision, Twixt, Tetro, Youth Without Youth, Supernova.
I've no
So, like,
idea.
you haven't created anything that one is good or two anyone's heard of?
Oh, you can go. I think that the first one that I really remember is Jack.
He directed Jack?
Yeah.
I've heard of The Rainmaker because it was a very famous novel in America that people went crazy for.
Yeah,
He literally hasn't made anything that people were like, wow, since...
Oh, Cotton Club is good.
Which one?
Cotton Club. But this is 84.
So in 1984, he directed something that was kind of good.
Kind of good. Yeah. Did you watch it?
Nope.
Okay. I don't think that you will like it.
I would argue he made... Oh no, The Conversation's fantastic. I don't know. Maybe something happened in 1980. Like he hit his head. Oh, The Outsiders was good. The Con Club. Yep, that was it.
Yeah.
If you say The Con Club is good, but that was the year I was born.
Good. So it's like maybe that's what happened, that you were born and Coppola lost his talent.
Took all his creative energy,
And look what you use it for a podcast.
anger, and rage.
Yeah, but it's a director. It's a director that I'm curious about. It's like people respect Scorsese. We all think that he's a talented director, and he still does movies that, hey, they may not be perfect, but they are good.
I don't know. That's interesting that you stated that way because nothing. While I do think Conversation is great, Godfather, a couple others really are great films. Nothing about his directing makes me curious to see more of him.
You mean about the style, that he doesn't have like a very recognizable style that you see, that you say is like, hey, I watched 2 of his movies that they were good. Now I want to see the rest, regardless if they're good or not.
I guess it's just a reaction to what you said. You said, now I'm curious to watch more of this person. I'm not. Why are you curious?
Oh no, I'm not. I'm curious about like what happened, about like why his movies suddenly just stop being interesting or, like appealing to the audience.
When was Sophia born? Maybe she...
She drained all of the talent. I think that
She's
it was
like
Sadie.
the black hole of creative filmmaking.
Yeah, no, I could see. Well, the thing is, like, she has a style.
She does.
She has.
Love it or
I
hate
may.
it, she has a style.
Yeah. I may like her more or less, but yeah, she has a style. I don't think that couple. I think that probably back then it was not that important to have like a style for directing.
That is true. I would agree that's true to the majority of the time, yes.
Because I'm trying to think even like directors that I really like Billy Wilder. I mean, Double Indemnity and Sunset Boulevard, they're not that similar, or Some Like It Hot.
But let's talk about real filmmakers like Tarkovsky and Ingmar Bergman and We'll Throw You a Bone, Hitchcock. Kind of.
Dude. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to be like
All
this.
that was said in joke. I'm just, but you see what I mean.
Okay.
There were directors with distinctive styles that did make me more curious to watch more of them. But yeah, there are directors like Mike Leigh. Besides Mike Leigh's films being almost perfect, and I watch more. There's nothing that would be like, whoa, this guy has a sense of perspective.
Well, but you actually want to watch more because you like their movies, and you think that is
an added complication to this is that like you have to like I don't personally like mafia movies as a genre, right? So that takes away from how much value I can.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting for me, like reflecting about this. It's just like, hey, there is something artistic about it. There is something artistic about Part 2. There is something artistic about Apocalypse Now. Part 3 is a train wreck. Cotton Club is great, but what happened? What happened with the art of this guy?
Well, joking aside, at some point in the near future, I'm picking Part 3 because when I watched the first one, I thought, wow, that's really good. And I watched the second one, then I watched the third one, knowing it wasn't good. I liked Part 3, all sarcasm aside. So I'd like to rewatch it with you and discuss.
If we're going to be doing that, we have to watch Part 2.
Yeah, we can do it. Not this week, not next week. At some point. Relatively soon. No! I take it back. He has a look of pondering on his face.
Yeah. Should I actually rethink what I'm picking for next week?
Would it be great if you pivoted, picked Part 2, and then next week I picked like Paul Blart Mall Call?
We have to balance the universe. Honestly, when I watched it, I was also expecting like a terrible train wreck. But the thing is, like, if you watch them like back to back, and Part 1 and Part 2, that they are like 2 years apart, like 72 and 74, I think, and then you have to wait for 20 years. You know, every single time that we say is like, do we need a revival of this franchise or a remake of this movie at this point? Is that this is probably one of the first cases of a, do we need a Part 3? It has been 20 years.
It worked for Twin Peaks, though.
But Twin Peaks is now. Is like what I mean is that this is one of the first cases of someone like just bringing something from the death. You know, is that Part 2 is 74 and Part 3 is 90. It's 16 years.
Well, it was a trendsetter, an early adopter of the
trend. But I just feel like at that point probably was like.
Wait, should I send a fuck you to Francis Ford Coppola that they're making that 90s show on Netflix now?
What? No, I don't think that is his fault. I don't think that is his fault. But on this case, I just had the feeling that is hey, this was not needed. Or you know, like right now, How I Met Your Father. It's like what. It's like, why? It's like, this is over. It was over like 10 years ago. Why does it come back? And in this case, it's a bit more is that, hey, do we really need a Part 3? Do we?
Well, to answer that question, we'd have to look at the novels, right?
Yeah, I think that probably like Part 3 was also like written later than that. But I don't remember that aspect. In this case, I just had the feeling that it was bang because first, it was not needed, and second, Sofia Ford Coppola is not a good cast.
She's in it for like 3 minutes. Just for anyone to say she ruined a movie where she had a 3-minute part is not realistic. Come on.
Just think that on the first one we have Marlon Brando and and Al Pacino, that they're in a state of grace. On the second one we have Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
Mm-hmm.
In a state of grace. On the third one, we have a very old Al Pacino already, you know, and we have Sofia Ford Coppola and Andy Garcia, if I recall correctly.
Oh, that's right. Why does Andy Garcia always show up in the third poorly decided? Didn't he do that in the Ocean's 11 trilogy?
I didn't get to watch it, but yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that probably at that point it was like, well, we need more actors. Is Andy Garcia who is available? And they went like with a hat for picking up one more name.
What do you think? I'm looking it up now, so I don't know the answer. The Godfather 3 has on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think that it would be 70.
That would be right around my guess. I would probably give it a little bit more, 75.
What is it?
The Godfather Part 3. 67.
Closer.
So yeah, I'm sure it's hard being compared.
Yeah.
To,
I mean,
many
you
people call it a perfect film.
Yeah. I mean, when you actually think about like perfect films, it's like usually you have this one, Casablanca. What else?
La Ventura.
Well, I mean in lists, in public lists, not in your personal list. You know, that people have watched.
Casablanca and the other one people love.
Citizen Kane?
Yep. Is that it?
That they are universally acclaimed as perfect?
The Amelie after that?
That's a big jump, dude. I guess that probably in the 70s you would still see lists with Gone with the Wind. Nowadays, probably not. Probably.
So, it's only a matter of time till it gets canceled.
Yeah, that's a movie that is like, no. I remember like when I watched it, I think that it was like on the 90s. The first time that I watched it, it was like, this feels weird. At this point,
even before being woke.
Yeah, this is just it's just strange that I'm watching this. But talking about that, about exactly that, is The Godfather Part 1 a timeless piece?
Yeah. I mean, first off, it's a period piece, so that kind of makes it timeless. But yeah, the themes that it explores about power and family relationships and all of that, it's all timeless.
Yeah, and as you said, it's like a movie that is set up like 20 years in the past. It's absolutely fine. There is no problem with it.
I just a side note, I went to dinner with some coworkers last Friday, and somebody, not me, asked the question, "What's your favorite film?" Somebody answered, "Grease Part 2."
In an ironic way.
Nope.
Wait, on that one, it was Olivia Newton-John, the one that repeated?
I can't remember. I don't think so.
Oh, no
I
one
think the only
repeated.
person who repeats was the beauty school dropout.
It was Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, she's the new Olivia Newton-John. Anyway, then they asked me and I was like, I don't know, The Seventh Seal.
Just shut up. You have never heard of it. It's that this conversation is not going anywhere, so...
I think I actually said Tar.
It's interesting.
I said, look, I can't pick, but in the last year, Tar's my favorite thing I've seen, so...
They were having a list of in a Facebook group that I'm part of. They were asking about like, hey, did you watch any of this year's nominees to the Oscar? Which one were your favorite? Which one would you recommend? Which one did you watch? And it's like, look, I only watched half of them. I tried to start watching the Banshees of Inisherin today. I watched 10 minutes or 15 minutes and I was like, wait, this movie is more than 2 hours. Is the whole movie going to be like this?
Yep.
Yeah, you told me about that and I was like, I think that I got the gist. I can skip, like just like 4 times in the middle of the movie. But I just said that is like, I think that Tar and Triangle of Sadness of the nominees, they are exceptional movies.
Agreed. Yep.
Now, it's hard to recommend. What?
And Pinocchio.
But it was not nominated to Best Movie.
If you didn't understand Pinocchio, my condolences.
But it was not nominated to Best Movie, regardless of how you feel about it. And I was like, yeah.
But I was quoting Guillermo del Toro about Bardo.
Oh my God, yeah, that's true.
Fuck you, Guillermo. Fuck you.
I still think that Bardo is a movie that if we was like 5 years in the future or 10 years in the future, its value will increase.
Agreed, 100%. I just don't need Guillermo del Toro giving me his condolences if I didn't like it.
Is that the other thing that I didn't understand or I didn't get It was the Cabinet of Curiosities of Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. So fuck you, Guillermo.
Take that, Guillermo.
My condolences for your complete lack of taste.
Yeah. Did you watch the whole thing?
I would say 75% of it, not everything though.
Because I only watched like 2 episodes. On the first one, I was like, well, let's give it. Maybe this was like a turd. It was like a mistake. After watching the second one, I was like, we just stop, no? Is that yeah? We just stop. Yeah.
Not, no.
Yeah. Would you turn The Godfather Part 1 into a TV show?
Ooh, this is
a hard one.
This is difficult. Yeah, this could be a TV show. I feel like, and again, I haven't read the novel, but if it's all the content is this good, yeah, make this a miniseries, man.
What I was thinking is about, as you mentioned it earlier, the Twin Peaks, the return, the last season, and that is conceiving a similar way about like, hey, this is a 12-hour movie that I decided to split at this point. But it's a movie. It's like something like extremely connected. Some parts are faster, sometimes are slower, but it's not really about thinking of a continuous rhythm, you know? About like, when you have a TV show, usually it's like, hey, every episode is designed with the idea of being like self-contained. Even if it's like a continuous story, it's like, hey, everyone has like, you know, an introduction, an act 1, 2, and 3. In this case, David Lynch gave like a middle finger. I think that you could do something similar with The Godfather. You could extend it to 7 hours and just do the same. About like, I don't care if this part is longer or not.
And it could sustain that same high level of quality, I think.
Yeah.
I really do think it could.
Yeah. And you have like 2 episodes of Michael in Sicily.
Which I would like to see. So, yep,
a tiny bit more. Yeah. So we know more about Fabrizio. What a bastard, Fabrizio.
And add the White Lotus celebrity everyone loves.
Oh, Joyce.
What is her
You
name?
mean like the main actress? Like Jennifer Coolidge?
Yes.
What? She was here?
We're making changes to our fantasy TV show.
Okay. That's fair. So I think that we already answered this one, but could this movie have been a short?
No. I mean, you could cut the wedding scenes out, but it would still be 2 hours and 15 minutes. So no, it could not be a short.
There is so much content on this one that is like, yeah, you could trim or edit or add nuance to whatever, but there is no way of making the same story with a short.
Not at all.
This is the tricky one. Do you think this movie could have been better?
I'm not even going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. The answer is nope. Besides cutting the wedding scenes.
I'm going to go, and this may sound like pretty, how do you say, like a snobbies? Arrogant? Yeah, arrogant. Let's go with arrogant. And say that I think that it could have been better, you know, adding that nuance that I was describing earlier. I think that maybe the kind of rawness into, we don't need to add like gray areas or anything, is a bit more of a product of its time, that it was like in the 70s they didn't have like that kind of need. For us, is like, or at least for myself, is that I love it when movies actually use that, you know, that is like, hey, nothing is black or white and we want to see like descent into tragedy. So basically, Asghar Farhadi directing this. I want Asghar Farhadi directing like a remake of The Godfather in Iran.
Wow, that would make it better.
It would make it different, that's for sure. Definitely no one would win on that. But should we score it?
We should. This was my pick, so you have to score first.
I'm going to go with an 8.5.
Wow. I feel like that's more controversial than every bad thing we've ever said about Steven Spielberg. What a hack.
I mean, we usually are like very gratuitous when we talk about Steven Spielberg. I think that you are like getting to a different league. It's almost like just having like a card that you can use like twice per podcast, just mentioning Steven Spielberg. What is your score?
Like podcast bingo. It's like guess or no.
Exactly.
Fun true.
Okay.
My score is
Okay.
a 9. I liked it more than you, obviously, 0.5 more than you. But yeah, there were some complaints I had this time through. But
The
overall,
weddings.
definitely the weddings. It definitely stands up. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the party that for me was between like 8 and 8.5. And it's true that this is a movie that I really, really, really like. I think that is like the movie that just, along Citizen Kane, that it just made me say, like, holy shit, cinema can be amazing. I didn't know that you could do like something like 3 hours, that it felt like 90 minutes, and that you were like the whole time is that I want to hear more, and like just paying attention to all of those details that in other movie would be like a bit more of a soap opera, and for me I would disconnect from it. But no, it works.
Yeah, I agree.
But for the next one,
This is your pick. What are we watching? Did you change your mind?
I'm a bit torn because I'm a bit concerned that if we leave like too, how do you say, like waiting for too long to watch, we're going to do something. We're not going to watch part 2 today, but we already have plans in 5 weeks to see each other in person. Let's plan for that time. We are going to be recording about part 3.
Okay.
So we have to just sprinkle the Godfather in the next 5
Sure.
weeks.
Okay.
Just
Right.
saying. So we don't have to watch it now. I want to give like a break to this. But in any case, I'm not going to be like picking anything happy. But I mentioned, you told me that you haven't watched like many, how do you say, like animated movies, or that you don't respect them too much as they can be big.
I mean, I did watch that Keanu Reeves film where they drew over his live acting,
Oh, yeah.
so I've seen enough.
Well, I'm not talking about pretentiousness in the medium. I'm just talking about like people is.
Tell me about the film we're watching.
Dude, I mean, okay, we're going to be watching Persepolis, as we were talking about Asghar Farhadi like a moment ago, and we're talking about Iran, and I think that I mentioned this movie when we're talking about separation. This is a movie that I remember like, this is pretty good, and you use the medium properly. I mean, you go with advantage as you are based on a graphic novel, but it's a good movie.
Is it going to be as good as the Afghanistan documentary we saw last year?
Oh my god, I have forgotten about that.
Because it was also animated and about one of these countries.
Oh,
I'm ready for the depth, the same level of depth in my animated films.
okay. Let's leave it there. I don't know how to defend it right now. I have forgotten that was an animated movie that we watched.
No, I'm not like completely against animated films. It's a little bit like mafia films, right? Like I know there are some great mafia films out there. I just don't necessarily seek them out. I know there are great animated films. I just don't necessarily seek them out. So I'm excited for you to introduce me to another one, and I hope to love it as much as Millennium Actress.
Correct.
I almost said Falcon.
Okay, no, that's a different thing. But yeah, thanks for trying.
Sure.
I mean, anything else that we should say about The Godfather?
It's no La Ventura. That's it.
But it gets close.
Close enough.
Yeah. And to all those people listening to us, thank you so much for putting up with us.
Wash your hands.
Okay, bye.